So, what is going on, guys? I am BlackOpsAmazing. Welcome back to another video. Now, in Blood of the Dead, there are several radios, as you may know, from both Maxis and the Warden. Now, I've actually covered both of these radios on my channel already. I made a video almost 2 weeks ago when Blood of the Dead came out, called Brutus Trapped the Primus Crew in Purgatory. Basically, in Blood of the Dead, there are 5 radios from the Warden where he is talking to a voice in his head about how he's going to transform Alcatraz into the hellish place that we know it as, about how he's going to become a more stronger, more powerful version of himself, and how he's going to use the Mob of the Dead characters to trap the Primus Crew. However, when I made that video, the voice in the Warden's head couldn't be heard. So a lot of people were speculating that maybe the voice talking to the Warden is Dr. Monty. I said in my previous video that it is the Shadow Man, even though we couldn't hear him. And the reason I believed it was the Shadow Man was because, well, it made the most sense. The Shadow Man had spoken to people before, specifically Richtofen. He spoke to the Ultimus Richtofen back during World at War BO1 and BO2 when he was taking control of the zombies. Richtofen was the Shadow Man's apprentice, telling him to do all of these evil and bad things. And so if there's a voice in the Warden's head also telling him to do bad things, it would only make sense that it is the Shadow Man. And, well, it was. If you listen to these radios again after completing the Easter egg, you can now hear it is the Shadow Man talking to the Warden. Now, we know that the Warden is Brutus, but these radios tell us exactly how he became that monster. They also tell us his work with the Illuminati, how he used the Mob of the Dead crew to trap the Primus crew, and also some very interesting things as well. So what I want to do is play the radios. If you have heard them before with the Shadow Man talking, then I'll leave a timestamp in the description as to when I begin to explain these, but I'm going to play them and I want to talk about what they mean after. Here we go.
Today is a red letter occasion. I sit in my sanctuary, brandy in hand, overlooking my prize. My prison. Mine. A temple of concrete and corrupted flesh, tilting on the axis of hell itself. Oh, it is beautiful. Oh, I can't recall the last time I indulged in spirits. They appear to have gone to my head. Congratulations and good luck. So thoughtful of the DOJ to send me a bottle after all their posturing and blathering and delays. Delays! But now the island is open. A full year early, thanks to me. And its true purpose, our purpose, written in the apocryphal pages of history, pulled from the flames of ignorance. Glass. The first drop of blood. Of course, it should be my own. Not too much now. Not yet. Oh, early to bed tonight. Tomorrow, I will be reborn. What am I doing wrong? Nothing. Every interpretation by every scholar I have made real in flesh and blood, and still the Dark Ones remain silent. They are deaf, blind, and dumb wherever it is they reside in the fabric of reality. Have I not bled the wicked? Have I not placed the markers on the proper lines? What more? What more? I am tired, and I have grown so very disturbed waiting for the release that was promised, but I fear will never be delivered. Because they do not exist. No. Wretched are the thralls who despair in darkness. Wretched, wretched, wretched! The work will continue, with or without the Illuminati. All they do is talk and scheme and pass judgment on methods that they deem unorthodox. What the hell with their protection? I will awaken this island, even if it takes every last soul in her walls. If I fail, I will be locked in here, and soon join them all in hell. The result is the same. No! Contraption!
Hear me.
Yes, I can hear you. Apologies, my lord. I am here.
Calm, faithful Warden, calm. I bring glad news. The world that you seek is near at hand.
Oh, thank you, my lord. Thank you. I've done my best to prepare the way. Please, where are you now?
Hidden, trapped, waiting.
I see. Tell me what I must do.
4 souls in your possession, 4 arriving soon. With the first, you will transform the island. Salvatore DeLuca, Finn O'Leary, Billy Handsome, Al Arlington.
Salvatore, Finn, Billy, Al. Yes, my lord, I know these names.
Their sins shall be their undoing. Their eternal punishment through your sacrifice will ensnare another. His ultimate reckoning.
A trap for another. Forgive my ignorance, Lord, but how will I know what to do?
Sir, it's me, Stanley. We have a situation.
Damn the situation, Ferguson. You handle it. I am not to be disturbed.
Wait. Listen.
I'm real sorry to interrupt your prayers, sir, but there's been a murder up on the roof. It's Al Arlington.
Arlington?
Yes, sir. Part of some kind of botched escape attempt. We got Sal DeLuca and his 2 cronies in custody. Looks like it was them.
I'll be right there.
I'll be right there. My lord, I entreat thee to speak. I have done as you asked. The remaining 3 of the first 4 shall die by electric chair this evening, and soon after I shall join them. It will be glorious in this new realm, Lord, I have no doubt, but I confess, I am afraid. This form is weak and has taken to drink, but I do cling to it still. Please, grant me the strength to...
Grant you the strength? Oh, you poor, pathetic wretch. I will grant you nothing until your death. You know this.
Yes, my lord, of course. My life is part of the disease, and the disease must be purged. I rejoice that day has come.
But you are a base, disgusting creature that cannot help fearing for its own skin. It is not your fault.
Oh, thank you for saying so, my lord. Truth be told, I long for the miracle that will release me.
That's a good lad. You have been an adequate servant. Therefore you will continue to serve after the corruption.
Such an honor for me.
Not an honor. A purpose. Your life's sentence. Waiting for Dr. Edward Richtofen to walk into the trap.
The Doctor. I've heard mention of him amongst the Illuminati. What would you have of him?
His blood holds great power. You will harness it all and open the way to the paradise below.
I swear, my lord, it will be done.
And one more thing.
Name it, my lord.
Spare him no pain.
Yes, Richtofen shall suffer. The time has come. The sponge is wet on my crown. The cap screws tightened. The switch in my hand. Oh, I'm going to burn. Oh, the fools. They want justice for the toll I've extracted from this forsaken island.
Sir, there's some men from the Bureau here. I stalled them as long as I could, but they're on their way to your office now. What do you want me to tell them?
Justice! There is no such thing. There's only the will of the Dark One.
Okay. I'll just tell them you're not feeling so well then, yeah?
Do as you wish. Run, hide, beg for absolution, and perhaps he will be merciful, as he has been with me.
Shh. Do not weep, my dear Warden.
My lord, you're here.
Of course, more or less. The threshold awaits, my friend.
Yes. Yes, the threshold. One last flash of light, and the sun shall vanish into the sea.
And the darkness?
The darkness shall spread. Through every fiber of creation it shall spread.
Listen, I told you, he ain't here. He went to see some special doc on the mainland. You guys are wasting your time.
I shall be its instrument.
Oh, come on, guys, cut me a break.
I shall bleed the chosen few.
Better hurry.
The gateway will open, and paradise will fall.
If you want to die first, raise your hand.
Ah!
Yeah. See there? What'd I tell you? Nobody's home. Nothing here.
So this finally confirms that the Warden is not Stanley Ferguson. For a long time that was a suspicion, but they are two separate characters. Stanley Ferguson wasn't Brutus, it was in fact the Warden. But it starts off with the Warden talking about him sitting in his sanctuary, brandy in hand, looking over his prison, or as he calls it, a temple of concrete and corrupted flesh tilting on the axis of hell itself. And he says, but now the island is open, a full year early thanks to me, and its true purpose, our purpose, written in the apocryphal pages of history, pulled from the flames of ignorance. The Warden from the very start was never planning to use Alcatraz as a normal prison. Since he took charge, the Warden only had one purpose for it, its true purpose, or as he says, our purpose. From the very start, the Warden was planning to transform the island. He was doing satanic rituals in the prison to summon the darkness. He sacrificed his own blood, where eventually he summoned the Shadow Man. The Shadow Man began to talk to the Warden in his head, where he basically told him that his life is part of a disease and that disease must be purged. In order for the Warden to be fixed, he must listen to what the Shadow Man has to tell him. The Warden asks the Shadow Man where he is. The Shadow Man tells him that he's hidden, trapped, waiting. I believe that during this time, the Shadow Man was actually trapped inside of the summoning key. However, we do know that he could still talk to people. If we look at Revelations, the Shadow Man spoke to Maxis and told him to pick up the summoning key and free him. So during the time of Blood of the Dead, the Shadow Man was trapped inside of the summoning key. However, he reached out to the Warden and began to manipulate him. The Shadow Man told the Warden that there are 4 souls in his possession and there are 4 that will be arriving soon. Obviously, the 4 in his possession are Sal, Finn, Billy and Al, and the 4 arriving soon would be Richtofen, Takeo, Nikolai and Dempsey. And he says the first 4, or the mob crew, the Warden was to use to transform the island. He said their sin shall be their undoing, their eternal punishment through your sacrifice will ensnare another, his ultimate reckoning. Basically, the Shadow Man wanted the Warden to use Sal, Billy, Finn and Al as a trap to trap the premise crew. All 4 of the mobsters were to be sacrificed in order to transform the island into its purgatory state, but this wasn't really important to the Shadow Man. This was actually only so he could set up a trap for his ultimate goal, which was to ensnare the premise crew, specifically Richtofen. All of Mob of the Dead was just a trap for Dr. Edward Richtofen. That was all the Shadow Man wanted. As we see by the ending, Richtofen's blood is powerful. His blood is like no other. In the ending cutscene, Richtofen sacrifices his blood to break the cycle. That just shows how powerful it is. He also uses it to open up a rift inside of Blood of the Dead, allowing the other Primus crew, Takeo, Nikolai and Dempsey, along with post-Revelations Richtofen, to escape. The Shadow Man says himself, Richtofen's blood holds great power. You will harness it all and open the way to the paradise below. Mob of the Dead was just one big trap to capture Richtofen, which makes me think, well, is this kind of like Shadows of Evil? Because in that map, we also know that the Shadow Man kind of, well, captured those characters, Floyd, Jessica, Nero and Jack, and he placed them in the Shadows of Evil realm, a nightmarish version of Morgue City. And we know the Shadow Man was also tricking them into giving him the summoning key. He told the Shadows characters that he was good and that the Keepers were evil. He said to keep the summoning key away from the Keepers and give it to me. But they actually find out about halfway through that the Shadow Man is lying, and they end up killing him and trapping him inside of the key. But we can see in Shadows of Evil, the Shadow Man used those characters. He trapped them in the Shadows of Evil dimension just to trick them, manipulate them and get what he wanted. I'm thinking, well, was Shadows of Evil also a trap to get Richtofen? Did the Shadow Man know that Richtofen was going to come here to collect the summoning key? Because that's exactly what happened. Richtofen did eventually come. However, when he arrived, the Shadow Man's plan had failed and he was already trapped inside of the key. Obviously, Richtofen wasn't aware of that. So was Shadows of Evil the Shadow Man's first attempt to trap Richtofen, but he failed, and so he's trying it once again in Blood of the Dead. He manipulated the Warden, just like he did the Shadows of Evil characters, into trapping the mobsters here, which was then a trap to trap Primus here, specifically Richtofen, in order to get his blood, because it's so powerful, and with it, the Shadow Man could do great things. Maybe he could use that to release himself from inside of the summoning key, I don't know. The Warden then goes on to tell the Shadow Man that he has done what he's asked, that the mobsters are set to die by electric chair, and this purgatory hellish state of the prison will soon come to light. The trap is almost ready for Richtofen. He also asked the Shadow Man to give him strength. He says he's doubting himself, he is a bit afraid of dying. He says that this current form that he's in, his normal body, because he has taken to drink, the things that he's done, he still clings to it. He doesn't, I guess, deep down really want to die, but in order to improve himself, to make himself a better person or to be stronger, to become more powerful, he knows he has to kill himself, or at least that's what the Shadow Man has convinced him. So he says even though he doesn't want to die, he's scared of it. Will you give me the strength? And the Shadow Man says, grant you strength? Oh, you pathetic wretch. I will grant you nothing until your death. You know this. The Shadow Man's being very harsh, but he's saying, until you're dead, you won't get anything. But when you are, you will become more powerful. You'll become Brutus, this big, strong guy that, well, can never die. Every time you do, you're just going to respawn in over and over again. He basically tells him that his life is diseased, blah blah blah, he must be purged. The only way that he can get better is to kill himself. He mentions as well how he's worked alongside the Illuminati. However, it's not really too specific in what the Illuminati helped the Warden with, because we know that the Illuminati also helped Primus Richtofen to build his laboratory under Alcatraz, but then we also find out that the Illuminati also helped the Warden to do something. And then in the end, once the trap is set and everything's ready to go, the Warden kills himself, as we see in his office or in his secret room. He straps himself to the electric chair, he electrocutes himself, he kills himself and is sent to Purgatory to become Brutus, which is where he is to wait for Primus and to trap them here for eternity. Or as the Shadow Man tells him to do, make Richtofen suffer. So this is all really interesting. Mob of the Dead was just a trap, a setup for Blood of the Dead. That map was set up so Richtofen would come to Alcatraz and Brutus could then trap him here. The Shadow Man was basically manipulating the Warden into doing what he wanted, into turning Alcatraz into this hellish state, trapping Richtofen here and getting his powerful blood. It's strange because the Warden clearly hates Richtofen. However, we know, like I said earlier, the other version of Richtofen, the 1.0, the older Ultimus version, the evil one, used to actually work with the Shadow Man. He used to be his apprentice. But obviously now things are totally different. So as we see at the end of Blood of the Dead, the Shadow Man's plan, I guess, kind of works. The Primus crew do end up getting trapped here, and the only way for them to escape is for Richtofen to sacrifice his blood. He has to kill himself in order to break the cycle. And since Richtofen is now dead in Alcatraz and his blood is full up in the machine, could the Shadow Man now potentially get his hands on that? I'm not sure. Has his plan worked? Because Richtofen has suffered, well, he's done more than that, he died. It was the only way to escape this trap that he'd been set in. Could the Shadow Man now potentially somehow get his hands on Richtofen's blood? I don't know. I feel like Richtofen would maybe be aware of that. We know that he's smart. Maybe he'd know that the Shadow Man's in on this and would want his blood, so you'd think he'd do something to prevent that, but I'm not sure. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Hopefully you've enjoyed as always. If you have, drop a like rating, make sure you are subscribed, and I'll see you all in the next video. Until then, goodbye.